On good days or on bad days, Medina County Office for Older Adults is a place where you can go and it's okay to be yourself. My life was topsy-turvy, and I look upon the day I joined Medina County Office for Older Adults as a day when I did a cartwheel and I landed on my feet.
I'm Ed Zackery, Director of the Medina County Veterans Service Office. Welcome to Salute to Service, a show about Medina County and our veterans. What we hope to capture in this program are some of the many achievements, heroic deeds, and sacrifices of our past and present warriors from here in Medina County. We also hope to highlight the many accomplishments that they have continued to make as veterans right here in our community. Again, welcome to Salute to Service. Today I have Army veteran Mr. Raymond Skully, Marine Corps veteran Mr. Jim Ross, and Army veteran Mr. John Zenczak, correct?
Correct.
I got that all right. All World War II veterans, right?
World
War II.
All right. So just a little bit about your background and stuff, and we'll start out from your career of going into the military. And where are you from, Mr. Skully? Originally, yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio. Mr. Ross?
Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised there.
Born and raised? Mr.
Cleveland.
Zenczak? Cleveland. So all Clevelanders, and now you're all out here in Medina, which used to be farmland probably back in the day. It's still a little bit farmland out here, yeah. So, Mr. Zenczak, what made you go into the Army? Were you drafted, enlisted?
I enlisted because sooner or later I would have been drafted.
Which year?
1943.
43. And Mr. Ross?
I was drafted in 1944.
1944.
I enlisted.
Enlisted?
I was 17 at the time.
Did your parents have to sign for you to get in, or?
Yes.
And so we got infantry.
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
Infantry.
Infantry. I see you got the combat infantry badge up there.
Right.
Okay, so once you went into the Army, obviously you went through basic training. I know you had a little different experience being a paratrooper. What was basic training like?
Real rugged.
Were there some days maybe you thought you might not get through it?
Not really.
Not really?
I was in good shape.
Good shape?
Yeah.
How about you, Mr. Ross?
What I said to myself was that whatever you do, I'll do, you know.
So did you go through boot camp at Parris Island?
San Diego.
San Diego, okay. And what about you? Where'd you go to? Fort Benning?
No. Camp Dakota, Georgia.
Camp Dakota, Georgia.
Yeah.
How about basic training for you?
Camp Shelby, Mississippi.
Camp Shelby. Was it pretty tough?
Oh, yeah.
Had to be hot down there, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
What month did you go through?
Huh?
What month? You remember?
During the summer months, I think.
Okay. So y'all joined the Army and the Marine Corps. World War II's going on. You know you're going to war. As a young man of 17, 18 years old, what's going through your heads? Let's start off with you, Mr. Skully.
Well, you have to start out with, in my era, everybody was patriotic, you know. So as everybody was going in, I said, well, I was getting kind of lonesome, so I figured I'd do my duty.
There you go. Mr. Ross?
I was pretty much the same. Early on, I went down and I wanted to enlist in the Air Corps. And they said, that's fine, get a release from your employer. So I went in the employment office and asked for a release, and they said, you'll get no release, you have to quit. I thought, boy, that's patriotic. So I thought, why should I throw away the seniority I had? Sooner or later, they got the draft anyway. My buddies were all getting drafted one after the other. I figured, won't be long. I'll be in anyway. So I just went back to work, and
Waited for your number to come up.
I didn't get drafted until 44. That's why I asked for the Marine Corps.
Right.
I thought, well, maybe I can catch up.
Oh, Mr. Zenczak, what about you? What's going through your head once you get out of basic training?
Well, we knew we were going to Europe because our first sergeant told us we were headed that way. But outside of that, no, we always considered Europe as a Army war.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Army was mostly in Europe, and I mean there was a few Marines over there, but not too many.
No.
Most of the Marines were all in the Pacific, correct?
There were no Marines.
No Marines in Europe at all.
No.
So the Marines pretty much had the Pacific War going on.
Right.
Yeah. So 101st Airborne, correct?
Yes.
How many jumps?
19.
19. 2 combat, right?
Yes.
So you're jumping into D-Day. What's going through your head when you're on that plane leaving England, going to France?
Well, it was something that was new. I mean, I was used to just jumping on, but when you're going into combat, I've never been in a combat before, and it's something to really go through.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to go through it again.
And for you, the war started when you were still in that plane, I would imagine, because there was a lot of bullets going up towards those airplanes.
Oh, a lot of flak,
Right.
Everything, and that's when I found out, hey, we're not playing games,
Right. So obviously you jumped out, you hit the ground, and was it chaos or what?
Well, they was shooting a machine gun fire. I was laying down like I was in a wheat field. They was traversing the wheat field. So I had to crawl. So I used my clicker because I heard another clicker about 20 yards or so away.
Right.
So I started to go that way. And then we bunched up there. Then after about, I'd say 10, 15 minutes, well, somebody must have got that machine gun because he wasn't firing anymore.
Any experiences on, I mean, how long did it take from the time that you guys hit the ground to really get organized and assemble together as a company or?
Well, you didn't get organized till probably the next day, really.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, you had to fight your way through,
Right. Now, Mr. Ross, you were in the Aleutian Islands, basically.
Yes.
No combat.
No combat.
What did you do in the Aleutian Islands?
That was a North Pacific Combat School,
Okay.
and we did a lot of mountain climbing, going down, dropping off of the cliffs and swinging from a rope.
A lot of training.
Hard training. Yeah, that was.
And in '44, the war is still in full swing, pretty much in the Pacific too. So
Yes.
you're planning on going to war at some point, and then something had happened where you had gotten injured, or you had a.
I was training with about a dozen other Marines
Right.
in a small group for the OSS,
Right.
and we didn't know what the mission was going to be. In fact, they didn't know themselves yet. They were going to dream something up,
Right.
find some use for us. And eventually they did. And they shipped out to Kunming, China, which was a staging area. But they found before they shipped out, I had a hernia. And the group went, and I went to Bethesda Naval Hospital.
And Bethesda's a
That
pretty
was
nice.
the worst day of my life, I think.
Going to Bethesda.
Because
you wanted to go with the guys you were with,
I wanted
right?
to go with
Right.
them,
Right. I can understand that. But Mr. Zenczak, you were in Europe. Which unit were you with?
Pardon?
Which unit were you with in Europe?
36th Division.
Infantry.
Texas Ranger.
Infantry division?
Infantry.
When did you first hit France? Did you go in on D-Day, or did you go in a couple months later? Or?
Right after the landing, we were the first replacement. Before that, while they were getting ready, I was in mine warfare school,
Okay.
lifting those bouncing Betsies.
Ooh. That's not fun, I would imagine.
Oh no.
So you got, when did you actually get to France? Do you remember about which month?
Not really. Everything, it just bumbles together now, you know?
Do you think it was maybe June or July? June, the landing was June.
Six.
So, yeah, so do you think it was July maybe, about a month afterwards, or?
No, sometime afterwards.
Okay. What was the major battles? I take it you were there before they went through Paris, right?
Yeah,
So you went through Paris with your unit?
no.
Where'd you go?
I got hit when we were coming out of the big woods.
Mm-hmm.
The shell never went to the ground.
Okay.
It used to hit the top of the trees.
Artillery shells?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyhow, one of my men got hit, and he had a hole in his belly about this big.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned around after I passed him on, and I never heard the damn thing coming. When I woke up, I was on my way to the hospital.
So where did you get injured at?
I just got knocked out.
Oh, okay.
First time I got injured was a crease on my shoulder.
Now you got 2 Purple Hearts, right?
Right.
Was the first one from when you got knocked out, or?
First one was when I got creased. The
Okay.
second one was I got knocked out.
Okay.
And they sent me to the hospital, and I got straightened up a little bit, and I thought I was going to go back, but they said no. So they shipped me to Italy from France, and I stayed in a replacement depot, handling incoming personnel from Air Force,
Right.
extra people, you know, that the Army didn't need in that position
Right, right.
anymore.
So you stayed in Italy for the remainder of the war?
Yeah,
Mr. Skully, got a Purple Heart also. Did you get injured D-Day, or was that later on in the war?
That was later on.
So you said you had 2 combat jumps. First one was D-Day.
Yes.
What was the second one?
The invasion of Holland.
Operation Market Garden?
Yes.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, 101st was up there in the Belgium area and all that, correct? What do you remember from that?
Well, the only thing I remember is we was in France, I believe, about 29 days when they brought us back, and then they prepared us to help Patton. If Patton would ever get stuck, you know, then we would jump behind and see if we couldn't free him up. And but about the 3rd day in the invasion of Holland, well, I got wounded in my left chest.
Okay. So, I mean, correct me with the history, but what was the town that in Holland that the 101st was?
Eindhoven.
Eindhoven, okay.
Yes.
And then the famous cry by the general was when they asked him to surrender, what did he say?
Nuts.
Nuts, yeah. And they never surrendered. That's what they're famous for. Who? That's great. You weren't in the Battle of Salerno in Italy though, but you were in Salerno, right?
I was in Cassino and Anzio
In Italy.
in Italy.
Okay. So you came out of the war out of Operation Market Garden, which was part of the Battle of the Bulge and all that too. And you came out soon after you'd gone into France with the 2nd Purple Heart.
Yeah,
You came out. So where did you go when you got injured?
Well, I was in the hospital. Then when I came out, I got back with the outfit in Berchtesgaden,
Okay.
where Hitler's hideout is.
Birch's Garden, yeah,
Yes,
down in the south.
That was the last battle.
Did you get up to the Eagle's Nest down there?
No, I didn't. For what?
I remember visiting the Eagle's Nest, and there's etchings of the American soldiers that had etched their
Yeah.
name in there, yeah.
No, it wasn't my thing.
No?
No.
So what did you do after the war?
Well, I was a machinist for a little while, but I didn't like to be confined, so I went into trucking.
Okay. Mr. Ross, what did you do after you got out of the service?
I went back in the shop.
Went back in the shop, machinist shop?
Yes.
What about you, Mr. Zenczak?
I was a carpenter.
So you went back into building houses and making furniture? Or
Right. Building houses, not furniture.
not furniture? So while you're in the service, and obviously you got pulled back and went to the hospital, you had some R&R. I mean, what did you do in your free time in the service? Where did you go, or what was some of the experiences that you got to see or do when you got a little bit of leave or some free time?
Well, I loved to dance, so I would look for a place where they have dancing and stuff. Then of course,
you find some
yeah.
girls, that's what you do.
Yeah.
There you go, okay.
That's what I used to look for.
The girls. And you were in Italy, so they got some pretty girls down there, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. What about you, Mr. Ross?
Well, if you had money, you know, you wouldn't have got drunk. But I remember once I didn't have any money, and I was in D.C. So I went to the art museum, the National Art Museum. And I'm looking at all the wonderful pictures there. And I was in this room, and I thought I was alone. And a voice said to me, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" And I turned around, and there was a kind of a dumpy-looking lady with looked like men's shoes. She said, "Can I show you something?" I says, "Yeah, okay." And she moved me off to the right in front of this picture, and then she moved me slowly across, and it was a wooded scene. So some horsemen coming down a trail. She said, "What did you see?" I said, "Unless I'm losing it, it seems to me like when we were way over there, the horse was looking at me. And now I'm way over here, and the horse is looking at me now." She said, "That's what makes it a masterpiece."
The horse followed you to move.
She probably correctly figured I was a dummy, just looking at and not really appreciating the art. So she helped me. I went back and checked a lot of the other masterpieces that day.
So, Mr. Skully, before you got out, were you discharged right when you got injured, or did you stay in for a little while after that?
Oh,
or?
yeah.
You
I ended up in Berchtesgaden, like I told you.
right?
Yeah.
And then, but when you were done with that,
That's when the war ended.
so did you come right back to the United States, or were you part of the occupation force over there?
No, well, be honest with you, I don't remember.
No?
Yeah.
You ever been back to Germany after the war?
God, no. For
No.
what?
No? No reason to go back?
No.
What about you?
No,
Never went back?
no.
So we come back into civilian life, and we're all out of the service. You went back to being a machinist, and a carpenter. What's those experiences that you carried with you the rest of your life that maybe made you the man you are today, or had been, that if you hadn't been in the service, or if you hadn't experienced what you've experienced, you'd be a different person? What do you think changed you?
Well, I found out that being armed away is not good.
Make you appreciate life a little more, maybe?
Oh, absolutely.
What about you, Mr. Ross?
Well, I toughened up in the Marine Corps, and I was more self-confident than I ever was before. And when I went back to work, I was sort of a new man.
Right. Different. It's a different experience. Makes you a different person.
Yes.
What about you, Mr. Zenczak?
I was more confident when I got out because the way things started when I got out, I was more sure of myself than I was before.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, nothing else.
Any regrets?
No.
Mr. Ross, any regrets being in the Marine Corps?
No way.
Mr. Scully, any regrets?
No.
Do it all over again if you had a chance to?
Well, we got paid pretty good, you know. We got $50 extra for jump pay.
Being a
every month.
paratrooper, right?
Yes.
Well, they shouldn't have paid you because it's a lot of fun, isn't it? When no one's shooting at you.
They were a
Who said
cocky
it's
bunch.
So you belong to the VFW, Veterans of Foreign
Yes.
Wars here in Brunswick, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Ross, you belong to the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign
And the
Wars?
veterans, yes.
And Mr. Zenczak?
So I belong the same way,
Same way, Veterans of Foreign Wars and the American Legion.
American Legion.
So those organizations are great organizations, and I know our office works with them a lot here in Medina County. What's the reason you joined those organizations back when you did?
They do a lot of good for the community.
Right, they do. They do. You know, and I can't stress that enough, what the veterans do for, you know, the communities that they're in. Here in Medina County, our veterans organizations are great. Doing the color guards and the honors down at the National Cemetery and the things they do for the community during Memorial Day and everything. Any last comments before we close up here?
Oh, if I have a lasting memory of the Marine Corps, I remember the sergeant saying, "You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish here, how much you can do." And he was right.
He was right. Mr. Zenczak, any last comments?
Well, I'm glad it's over because during the course of the war, there should have never been a war because the idiot like Hitler pumped it all up, pumped the German people up, and after that, they weren't sure of themselves anymore.
Right. I think most people that you would ask that have been in war would tell you that it's a waste in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And if you could avoid it, to try to avoid it at all costs. Although sometimes it's necessary.
At Rapido River, they stopped the war to pick up the dead.
Mm-hmm.
There was 7 trucks I saw, 2 layers of bodies all the way to the top. And that should never happen.
No. Well, I want to thank all of you for coming by today and sharing a little bit of your story. I want to, Mr. Scully, Mr. Ross, and Mr. Zenczak, I want to thank you all for your service. And it was good to have you here on Salute to Service.
View this and other great BAT programs by visiting bat.pegcentral.com. Brunswick Area Television's on-demand service, streaming on the internet 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
We all share a common journey. We wanted to serve our country, stand for something bigger than ourselves, and protect the things we love. Although we were ready to face any mission, help those in need, and make a difference, for some of us, coming home was more of a challenge than we expected. In the service, we had each other's backs. But as veterans, it can sometimes feel like we're all alone, even when surrounded by our loved ones.
At the Veterans Crisis Line, we understand what you're going through. and we can help. It's your call.
This program was brought to you by the same men and women that also brought you your freedoms. Thank you for watching Salute to Service.
Okay, Mom, now what are you doing?
Oh, hi, honey. Check out my new talking book machine. It's just perfect for vision impaired folks like me. A new librarian from the Medina County District Library delivered it right to my house and showed me how to use it. It's kind of like Netflix. When I finish the book, I just put it back in the case and I mail it back for free. A few days later, I get a new talking book. Best of all, it's free. Everything is free. And that's great on my fixed income.
That's really amazing, Mom. Now, how did you find out about this?
Well, I visit the mcdl.info website, and there are all sorts of great free programs just for people like me.
Visit www.mcdl.info. Just click on the Outreach Services or the 55 Plus page. There's a wealth of information and programs waiting for you.